Hello and welcome to this edition of the Boob Tube Buddies podcast featuring our discussion of Netflix's Black Mirror, episode 3 of season 3 entitled Shut Up and Dance. I'm your host, Foxman, and I'm joined by my beautiful co-host and my wife, Bethany. What's going on, Bethany?
We've got a Black Mirror podcast. We hope you take a listen. Whoa, whoa.
It's actually going to have a ton of musical stuff in it, speaking of which, because...
well, that obviously is the best contribution.
Naturally, absolutely, right off the cuff, very good.
That was for you. I know you love Will Smith.
Well, obviously I do.
You do.
Which, by the way, if you guys haven't heard, we have a parody of Men in Black, where we did Man in Black for Westworld. It's pretty good. You should check it out on our...
pretty good.
Yeah, check it out on our website or our YouTube page. But anyway... for those of you joining us for the first time, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Reddit, or our website, www.boobtubebuddies.com, to get in on the conversation. We will make sure all your thoughts and theories get on air, and we'll have you guys on for interviews. In fact, we have Caryn from the Black Mirror subreddit coming on this episode for a discussion, and, as always, Michael for Preach or Don't Preach.
I have to say that the interview with Caryn is probably my favorite interview that you've done.
Oh, okay.
She just sounds super smart and like she knows what she's talking about. Leave it to the women to make the best.
I was wondering if
interview.
Okay, because I was gonna say, man, what a fuck you to everybody else that's come on, but I get it. This is just a hashtag feminism.
I mean, I listened to it. I'm like, of course of course it's good.
Jesus Christ. Well, anyway, yes, Caryn was great. So this episode's about an hour long, and for you guys who have listened before, you know what's coming next. For those of you who haven't, our first segment that we like to do is just a quick summation of the episode using 140 characters or less that we call Summon It Up in a Tweet.
Oh yeah, we're summon it up, so summon it up, summon it up, oh yeah, we're summon it up, oh yeah, we're summon it up, so summon it up and up. Tweet.
All right, so Bethany, you have a Summon It Up in a Tweet, correct? And is it 140 characters or less?
I believe it is, sir.
Oh, God.
I stepped up my game a little bit.
Oh, shit.
Okay. Here we go. Pissy Pants digs kitty porn. People in Compy relay their scorn. Must comply or all will see. Does crime. Jeans with we. Fight to death. Shit got real. No matter. All revealed despite the deal.
Very good. Okay, that was probably your best one yet.
Yeah?
Yeah, that was really good. Okay, so for my Summon It Up in a Tweet, I actually have a special little something. You don't have to act surprised. I showed it to you right before we came on.
It's just never enough. You know, you do something, I try and match it, and then you've got musical productions and all sorts of stuff going on. There's no way that I can match that.
So at the end of this episode, they have the Radiohead song that plays. So keep that in mind when you listen to my Summon It Up in a Song.
Shut up and dance is about a kid who jerked off to kitty porn. Spoiler alert. Kenny and his boy Braun do some heinous shit and get out it anyway. They're totally fucked.
Okay, so this is basically our first episode that we've done in almost a week together.
Yeah, we have been so sick. Actually, you are still sick, poor thing.
All right. So thanks to the sweet magic of editing, you didn't hear that we actually already recorded this part, and I died and collapsed into a coughing fit.
You poor thing.
I had to gargle warm salt water and then have like a shitload of Hall's lozenges. So we're hoping this goes well.
Yeah, there might be a few cough breaks here and there. That's all right.
A few cough
That's
breaks.
all right.
No, I'll edit those out. You will not have to suffer through those.
But we apologize for being gone for so long. It's been the plague in our house. I was sick, then you were sick, the kids were sick, and you're still sick.
We still managed to put out 2 episodes over the last week, which is not bad. One good. Black Mirror and 1 Taboo. So that's really not that bad when you consider.
Right. So forgive our nasaliness, our coughing. We're chugging through, trucking through. What is it?
Chugging through. No, that works. That's right. That sounds good. It sounded weird, but I think it's good.
We're chugging like big chuggy choo-choos.
Okay, stop it. Okay, so before we get into the episode, I actually I went online and there was some Easter eggs and some continuity issues too, which I know you fucking love.
I didn't catch any continuity.
No,
flaws?
and I didn't catch the Easter egg, so this is all pulled offline. So take it with a small grain of salt.
Okay.
Like the grain of salt water that I just gargled a minute ago. So the first one is when the CEO, which is the lady
in the Volvo.
Exactly. At the end, when she has been outed, she is looking at the news website that says CEO caught in racist email scandal. So there's actually a headline on there that says Prime Minister Callow is getting divorced.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Michael Callow, which is the Prime Minister from
the first
National
episode.
Anthem.
Yes.
So
wow, that's so funny.
It's a good one.
That's cool. I like
that. There is when the CEO is also on the same website. There's another headline that mentions a new talent show called 15 Million Merits.
Oh wow.
So again, I didn't actually see these. So, but there were tons of comments on them, and that would be like some serious brigading for people to go on there and like push this fake stuff through.
Yeah.
The other one it says is a headline mentioning the trial of Victoria Spillane.
Who is that?
That's from White Bear.
Oh, the girl.
Yeah, so
I love
pretty
that.
Interesting. Yeah,
those are good.
Yeah, so anyway, I bet they're all fucking fake and none of them are true, and I didn't verify. Okay, so the continuity issues, which I know you spot them really well. I never catch them.
I love them.
I only notice them.
I don't love them. I hate them, but I love finding them. When
people are drinking a beverage or smoking a cigarette, the obvious ones. That's the only ones I'll catch.
The cigarette's almost gone, and then it's completely...
And then it's full, and then, yeah. Okay, so in the opening scene when that CEO parks her Volvo wagon and leaves it, the car is like very neatly within the lines, but when the 2 main characters, Kenny and Braun, end up taking it, the car is now parked over the line. Very small one. You'd never catch that, right?
No.
Okay. So another one that is slightly more obvious is when he's cycling to the multi-storied car parking garage, and it says, "Don't be late. You have 90 seconds." And then he arrives and texts back, "I'm here," really quick. You can see on there the preceding text from them, and all it says now is "Don't be late," not "Don't be late. You have 90 seconds."
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So that one it was a little easier to catch.
Yeah,
of course
that
I
one.
didn't.
Yeah.
But okay. So then the last one is the Volvo again. Before Kenny robs the bank.
Fucking Volvo.
Yeah. Before Kenny robs the bank, the Volvo has a CD player and a cassette deck. After the robbery, the CD disappears, and then when they arrive at the drop point, the CD player reappears.
What?
Yeah.
Why would that be?
Because they must have had like multiple Volvos for one reason or another.
Why would that be?
I don't know. Whispered words of wisdom, let it be.
Oh, God.
Okay. All right, so anyway, those are just a couple of things that I found interesting, but let's hop into the episode.
Yeah, those are good. Okay. So like you said, it opens up with the CEO, and she's nervously waiting outside her Volvo.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it, right?
Yeah, and I mean, we don't even have to talk too much about his job. He works at some shitty place named Barney's.
The interaction he does have with the little girl.
Yep, I was going to say, that's the only part that bears mentioning.
No, I know that you mentioned that it was brought up in the interview with Caryn. And the context of that just completely changes once you find out what his
It
deal
does.
is. So it does look like it's trying to show character building, like, okay, he's a good guy, he's sweet kid, giving it to the little girl, you know, but then the end it takes on this sort of sinister, you know, and maybe it's not sinister where he's like thinking about having sex with her, he's just
No, but you as the audience now view that scene in a different light.
Yes.
But even watching it this time and knowing what I know, his expression doesn't betray any malice or sexual predatoriness.
I think all that stuff is really more complicated. It's not so black and white. You know, you don't just see...
He's not going to tap his fingers together or start jerking off or something like that.
I think he probably genuinely does like kids. And then but there's some other abnormal psychology going on there too.
Yeah. But, okay, so he goes home and his sister was on the laptop and watching movies and his computer's acting up. And this is when he downloads a malware cleaner from a company named Shrive. And that's when we start seeing shots of his webcam. So clearly that's when they've gotten in there.
Speaking of the webcam thing, you have warned me of this, but usually on my own webcam, I put a piece of paper over that camera because I'm so paranoid about that.
Everybody should be.
And especially in this house, my God, nobody's ever clothed in this house.
Well, I mean, I wear clothes.
Everyone wears clothes except me.
Yeah.
Sitting at my work computer, just completely in the nude, just doing my
Just
reports.
Skyping all your coworkers.
Yeah.
Okay, so
But that is so scary.
yeah, so later he ends up doing his little, you know, jerking off up in the room, and this is the point where, right, you're okay with me skipping forward to this, right? Because none of the stuff that happens in between there is really that important.
Yeah.
So he rubs one out, basically. For whatever reason, after he washes his hands, he sniffs his fingers.
I was going to ask you that. Is that a thing that guys do?
I have never... And even if, like, it was that, you know, how people sometimes... this is weird, but, like, you know, you might scratch and then sniff or something like that.
Yeah. Or, like, when you pick your ear, then you smell your finger.
What the fuck?
You've never done that?
At some point, I'm sure I've done that. But what I don't understand is why you would wash your hands with soap and then sniff after. Like, what are you
maybe
hoping
maybe he eats a lot of deli meat or something, and he knows that his semen has a pungent odor. I mean,
it's just weird. It's just weird that it was thrown in there.
Well, guys, when they are
there's no way this is going to be real.
No, when they're with a girl and they are, I'm trying to think of the better word for it, but when
Finger blasting?
Yeah, then they smell their hands.
What the fuck?
You always see that on TV. They don't do that, or like they go.
Oh my god. Okay. Sorry, everybody. We're just going to move on past that. I don't know why I even got her revved up in this conversation. So,
I don't know why he's sniffing his fingers. I figured you'd know.
When he goes back in, he sees the email that says, "We saw what you did," in all bold capital letters. And
I would delete that immediately. That wouldn't even like that wouldn't be on my rate. I would see it and like,
It
delete.
wouldn't until he gets sent the video clip of him flogging the dolphin. And then it's pretty obvious that this is a credible threat.
I still think I would just delete it. I wouldn't want to deal with it. Delete. That's what I would do.
Well, then they'd just go ahead and send it out there anyway.
They're
or...
like, oh, well, fuck, man.
Yeah, to really start the wind out of our sails here. They send you the picture of that creepy cartoon troll face guy, but instead of looking all smiley, he just looks sad.
Release it, man.
Yeah.
What am I going to do?
Well, let me ask you then. Knowing everything that we know about this episode, how far into it would you have gotten, do you think?
I wouldn't have done any of it.
Any of it? You wouldn't have delivered a package if they said that they had video evidence of you jerking off to pictures of little children?
They're going to release it regardless if they're...
Are you sure you'd feel that way in that situation?
Yes, there's no way. I would contact someone immediately and tell on myself and say, this is what... Look, I looked at this. Definitely, I would get ahead of that shit. I would just assume I'm fucked, and I would tell someone, especially if I was 15 or however old he is, and I masturbated to kiddie porn. I would tell my mom and say, look, there's a video of me. I need help. get me a lawyer or whatever. That there's no way that I would try and handle that on my own. No way.
I think that's a really presumptuous rationalization of how somebody should act and not necessarily how somebody would act. Because in the beginning, it looks so simple. And then when he goes to that one spot and he gets there and he goes up top and the guy delivers the thing to him and the
says,
guy
just do what they say and then they'll...
Yes, because he gets the text and looks relieved. So if you saw that and like saw that guy looked like he had gotten off scot-free, and because at this point he hasn't really committed to doing anything wrong,
right? Then
maybe you're like, okay, then I'll just see this through.
Sure, and I can definitely see how that would happen. I just think that I would be so scared. I can't keep a secret. I just can't keep a secret. I would have to tell someone and enlist someone's help.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I was just curious what you thought. So,
but it's hard for me to imagine myself looking at kitty porn. Also,
yeah. No, I feel you on that. It's very hard to put yourself in this situation. In fact, I try to even take the kitty porn out of it, and I try to think of like if there was just something else, because
the kitty porn part is what would. If it was just a picture of me masturbating, whatever, man. Like, I would tell someone that had happened. That's not that big of a deal.
You say that, but knowing that
especially as a teenager,
knowing that every single person that you know, every single person, so like your aunts, your uncles, your nephews, your nieces, like everybody, like old coworkers, current coworkers, like all sorts of random fucking. Every time you leave the house, every time you see somebody, you know that person inside is chuckling. You know that. Where you're not at, where people are out together, they're laughing about it and stuff like that.
That happens to people all the time. I mean, it's just part of our culture now. Happening to people all the
time is a very disassociative way of looking at it.
I'm not saying it wouldn't suck and I wouldn't be devastated. I don't think that I would go through all of this.
I mean, definitely stopping at the bank robbery thing is no doubt where it would stop for me, no matter what. No matter what it was, that's where it would stop for me. But the rest of it, I think I do.
Okay.
But, okay, so anyway, he gets activated, basically, with the phone thing. So when he goes to work, and we've kind of already talked a little bit about that, but...
and you just feel so terrible for him.
You do.
He seems like a loner. Seems like he doesn't have many friends.
He seems like a sweet little kid. And the thing is like a lot of times when you see a kid who's supposed to be 15, 16 years old... It looks like a 22, 23-year-old playing it. Like, the actor himself, I have no idea how old he is, but he looks like a teenager. Mm-hmm. And the way he emotes this, the panic that you see in his eyes the whole time, it is palpable. Like, you cannot help. He does such a good job.
Especially next to Braun, who looks like a weathered man.
Yes, and he's very stoic.
Yes, and he's got that pale, soft skin, the rounded shoulders. He looks very much adolescent.
He's very slight and tiny. Yes. Yeah. So, and anyway, so we can kind of skip past the car park place because we talked about when he sees the guy up there. So when he goes to meet Braun,
what did you think when he opened the cake? What did you think was going to be in there? Did you think it was going to be a cake?
It's hard for me to look back on that. That was months ago that I first saw this episode. So I don't know. All I know is that while that fondant icing looks good, I
hate fondant.
It's so shitty.
It's awful.
It's the worst taste, but I guess it's maybe the best way to decorate.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to decorate because it's smooth, but give me the buttercream any day.
Yeah, just write some simple shit on there for me. I do not want that, like,
as soon as I saw that it was fondant, I would have taken the cake and thrown it out the window and just gone home.
I like when we're watching it, you're like, and when they start ripping into it, you're like, that cake looks dry as shit. Because it does. Oh my god, worst cake ever.
But if I open the cake, just to go back to what I was asking you, and it said... I love you, I would be scared that I was delivering it to someone, like, that the person that was manipulating me was some sort of weird stalker and I was already going to be implicated in a crime, that it's a cake that says I love you. I don't know. I feel like he would be setting me up already. But maybe that's because I'm a woman?
I don't know. Yes, I would obviously be worried about a million things then. That would be not the most heightened part of my concerns.
Oh my god, I just got the best idea. I'm totally getting you that cake for Valentine's Day. And
Not
I'm
with
gonna,
the fucking shitty fondant.
I'm gonna put something in the middle of it for you to dig through at work.
I'll just end up accidentally biting into it.
I love you.
Okay, so when he gets to the hotel, what I was a little confused about here is why the fuck had they not activated Braun ahead of time?
And I didn't trust Braun at first, because you don't... didn't trust Braun at all. Is he a part of it? At the end, of course he's not a part of it, but it's all very sketchy when he goes in the room. I would never have gone in the room with that guy. But, yeah, there was some confusion there. Like, how did he not know what was going on with the kid?
Well, and I get that he had probably just showed up to the hotel to meet with Mindy. So I get that. I get that. Like, that's the reason.
To meet with Mindy, like the prostitute?
Yes.
Okay.
Like, there was even a dress that he'd gotten for her on the...
Yes.
So he just gotten there. So I guess that they couldn't have spoiled it ahead of time because he just would have ended up leaving. But no, because then they could have activated and said, you know, we have all this out. Like, they could have let him know that 20 minutes before the kid was supposed to get there. It's just weird for them to not have set it up.
Maybe they told him and he was still kind of hoping that Mindy would show up or something. I don't know.
But he didn't understand the they when the kid walks in there, when Kenny walks in.
Yeah, I don't know. This is all getting very convoluted the more we break it down. The bottom line is that now Braun and... What's this kid's name?
Kenny.
Kenny. Got it. That name, I can't...
He doesn't seem like a Kenny.
He does not seem like a Kenny.
No. Kenny, to me, and of course everybody is going to have a completely different... Are you sniffing your fingers?
Wiping my running nose. I'm trying not to make a sound.
Everybody's going to have a different visualization of what a name is for them. But for me, Kenny is definitely a redneck.
Mullet, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a redneck.
Yep.
And apologies to any Kennys out there. I'm sure that's not all of you. But, you know, you just have a couple of people in your life that fit a certain archetype that have the same name. And that's just how that follows you.
He looks more like a Brendan.
He looks a lot like a Brendan. Wow. Good call.
Maybe I'm thinking of Brendan Dassey from Making a Murderer.
A little simple.
I just feel bad for her.
It's a little simple, yeah.
Anyway, now he's got a partner.
Yeah, okay,
Which
so
is nice.
Actually I think that this might be a good time to throw over to the interview with Caryn.
I completely agree, and then you can cough for 25 minutes and we can come back.
You can tell, man, I'm just like already melting down. Small increments, short increments, let's do this. So anyway, here is Caryn, and also stay tuned at the end of the interview as the outro. She recorded a small bit, which is from the song that you'll recognize as our theme song, which is Anyone Who Knows What Love Is. And it is also in a few different episodes. She sings just a small bit of it, which we use for the outro, which is pretty cool. So anyway, without further ado, here's Caryn.
Player 3 has entered the game.
All right, I am here joined by Caryn, and we're going to talk about Shut Up and Dance. So how you doing tonight, Caryn?
I am doing really well. How are you?
Good. Thank you very much for joining me. Let's just jump right into it. You chose this episode, or maybe I forced it on you. I don't remember.
I think it was slightly forced upon me, but
Yes.
that's okay.
So where does this one sit for you? And if it's not one of your favorites, you can be brutally honest here.
Yeah, I really like the episode. There are other episodes that I felt more like connected to.
Sure, like
but
which
this
ones?
one, so I think my top 3, I guess we could say, would be 15 Million Merits.
Yep.
And then maybe like White Bear, and then I want to say either like Men Against Fire or a million versions of you, or no, I'm mixing them up. It's like A Complete History of You.
That one's pretty intense too. This might be the most stressful episode of all of them.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I mean, because it just goes on, and after I look back on the entire series, the first episode stands out as being a stressful one, but
at the same time, I'm never going to be a prime minister, so there's some level of disconnect there.
Right.
I mean, I'm also never going to look at child pornography, so I guess there's a certain level of disconnect in this one too.
Yes.
But I mean, you could see like somebody blackmailing you for something, and it's just like, and this kid the whole time, you feel so bad for him, and then at the end, you don't really know what to feel, because like, he seems like a nice kid who maybe, but it's a terrible, awful thing that he's done, but it's so hard to reconcile it because you've been watching him as the protagonist for the whole episode.
So I was legitimately confused about this. So, I mean, they do kind of lead us to believe that he has been looking at child pornography, but is that really confirmed, or is it just like slightly implied? Like, I'm just having trouble remembering how we understood that to be true.
I think that at the end when his mom calls him, she says something like, you know, about it being kids, like, oh my God, it's children, something like that. And I think that conversation is what really brings it to light.
So this is interesting. When I first watched this episode, the way I interpreted that line was that because, I mean, I don't know if we really know Kenny's exact age, but, you know, he's clearly a teenager. And my interpretation of they're saying it's kids was he was looking for kids his age. So, like, instead of, like, you know, I don't know, some like MILF or whatever, like he was looking, he probably, you know, maybe he looked up like, you know, like 16-year-old girls or something like that.
I don't think that they'd refer to them as kids in that scenario. I mean, I totally get what you're saying, because obviously the line is different for a kid his age who is under 18. But I don't think that she would say something about like, oh, they're children or something like. I think that they'd use a different terminology. I also think that they wouldn't necessarily even mention that they're kids if he's looking at people his own age. Not that I don't even know if it's right or wrong then, I guess, if you're under 18, but I mean, I think that it is implied that they're children. Obviously, we never see the stuff, thank God, but I think that that's the implication.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that it just didn't even seem to fit with his character.
It really didn't.
And I mean, that first scene where there's that young girl at the cafe where he works and she just leaves something behind, and it's so innocent and it's so sweet how he, you know, he just makes sure that she has it when she leaves, and you know, there was nothing like sexual or sinister about that interaction. And, you know, I can't tell if that's like, you know, just a way of humanizing pedophiles, or if it's just, you know, we're really meant to like almost not trust what's written about his like ultimate ending. I don't know.
Let me ask you a question kind of like in that sort of vein. So a lot of the shows have a really clear moral to the story. I'm not really certain that this one does. I left the episode feeling very conflicted, but I didn't even necessarily know about like what my thoughts were supposed to be focusing on. Do you think it contains like a message?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I feel like when I watched this episode, it completely blew my mind. You know, to have them go that far and then to just see that troll face, like it was all for nothing.
Oh, God, yeah.
I think it was an interesting parallel to, I mean, it had allusions to other episodes as well, but particularly for National Anthem, you know, it was kind of similar in that there's this hidden figure that's sort of manipulating the situation, and they're not doing it for money. It's like either for like an artistic purpose, and in this case, we don't really know who's doing it or why or what their motivation is other than to just fuck with them. And I think that, you know, like my takeaway from this is kind of how do we think about like privacy, and how do we think about like, I don't know, like what is the normal standard of privacy, I think was like the question for this. And I think the scene that comes to mind when I ask that question is when they're in the car and they're sort of swapping stories, kind of like in prison or something, like what are you in for?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, they filmed me, and then Braun, I'm just going to call him Braun. I'm so sorry. That's just
I'm
who he is
so
to me.
happy that so you watch Game of Thrones?
I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan.
All right, let's come back to that. Continue with what your point was.
Yeah, so he's just kind of like, wait, like that's all you did was like, like masturbate in front of the camera. And, for some people that's like nothing. And then for him, it's such an intimate, private moment. And I think just that in combination with like the laptop and like I don't know, I think for me, it was like the question of like, how do we as a society like define what privacy is, and how do we control it? Because there are all these people around us who, have access to like what we're doing and what our history is. And that's where I think the technology comes into play too, because like things that we put out there on the internet, it's frozen in time. You can always come back to it. Like this podcast, I could say something really cringy and it could be dug up for like my grandchildren.
I noticed you dropped a couple of F-bombs.
Oh yeah, we might have to go back and censor those.
No, we curse all the time on this podcast. No problem.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that was like my impression of it, which, maybe it's not necessarily the moral of the story, but just sort of a question that I think is being posed to us.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a scope on what is privacy, especially in the digital age. And I have to say, watching through it, at first I'm watching it, I'm like, well, yeah, I guess if I was caught and somebody had a video of me masturbating on camera, like I would probably do some of the earlier steps of this, like to keep it out there. As I'm watching the show, I'm like, oh God, like what would I wouldn't want that out. Like I have children, I have a profession, I can't. But then as it gets to like robbing a bank, it's like, nope, go ahead and release the video. That's not happening. I'm not going to be there peeing my pants outside of the bank and then going in and doing it. It's just, like, but
yeah.
Okay. So you had mentioned Braun. I'm so happy because I was going to ask you if you watched Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Did you know that he was actually in a boy band called the AV Club, and they had the #1 single on the UK pop charts in 1995?
What? That
Yeah.
is an amazingly random piece of trivia that I feel the need to share with the world.
You have to go back and watch this song. I think it's called Unchained Melody or something. I think it's a cover. They did a lot of like old covers, but it's like a boy band, and it's him and this other guy. And Simon Cowell was actually like one of their producers or something like that. And yeah, they sold like over 1 million copies of the single. Actually beat out Oasis that year for the #1 song.
What?
Yeah.
That is crazy.
And this, like, him as being, like, such a tough guy. I mean, maybe not quite so much as Hector, but definitely as Braun. But watching Jerome Flynn, like, in his tight little boy band clothes is a fucking riot.
I need to see that immediately.
It's amazing. All right. Just a last question here. Why do you think the episode's called Shut Up and Dance? That confused me a little bit. Maybe it's super obvious. Maybe everybody listening is like, are you kidding? I don't get it.
So I think of two things. One is that song, that is popular right now / last year. You know which one I'm talking about? I forget who the artist is.
I really don't. Although I will say I said the name of the episode to Bethany and she started singing a song that I was not familiar with. So she obviously knows it.
Yeah, it's like, don't you dare look back, just keep your eyes on me. Anyway,
okay, yeah. I've heard that song.
Yeah. So there's that song, and then I also think of Zoolander with Ben Stiller from 2001, I believe is the year, where he's talking about like how male models are told to like do like just trained to do as they're told. And then the director is like, you're a monkey, Derek. You're a monkey. Dance, monkey, dance. And then when I was watching the episode, I noticed that, like, Kenny has this, like, monkey sticker on his laptop. And I was like, maybe this is just a metaphor for this, like, illusion of, like, choice in society when really we just sort of have to, like, comply and do as we're told.
Yeah, we're all the dancing monkey.
Yeah, maybe that's it. I don't know.
Damn. I mean, I really think maybe you should be hosting this podcast with Bethany. Because I'm just sitting here and I'm like, I think it's a popular song maybe. Somebody told me that. I don't. Okay, well, I think that's going to do it. This was an awesome interview. Thank you so much for coming on, Caryn.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and we have a special treat for everybody. You had mentioned that you really liked the intro song that Mothman, who's one of the other co-hosts here at Boob Tube Buddies, had done, and you asked us to send it to you. I think you didn't end up using that. You just did the piano, right?
Yeah, I just found the MIDI file a little bit hard to integrate. But...
Yeah, I would totally imagine that. But so you wanted to just a quick 20-30 second clip, basically sing, and I said, well, we'll use it for the outro. And I was a little nervous, maybe even a little dubious. I had no idea what it was going to sound like, but it's pretty awesome. So we're going to cut to that right now, and that's going to play us out into, I think, probably an Audible ad and then back into the show.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So we'll have you on again. And again, for now, thank you so much for coming.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
All right. You too.
You can blame me, try to shame me, and still I'll care for you. You can run around, even put me down, still I'll be there for you.
Oh yeah. Get your free month trial to Audible at www.audibletrial.com/boobtubebuddies. Why the funky beat, you ask? I wanted to download the book Making Music Your Business, a guide for young musicians, but first, I wanted to see if I had what it took to make music.
English, motherfucker!
I guess some of us just don't got it. I'll stick to podcasting and never do anything like this again. Seriously, swear to God I won't. If you go to www.audibletrial.com/boobtubebuddies, it's a free month for you and money in our pockets. Over 180,000 titles to choose from, like Making Music Your Business, a guide for young musicians. Drop the beat, little buddies.
Okay, thank you so much to Caryn. That was awesome having you on. Like Bethany said, it was a great interview, so we really appreciate you being part of the show.
Thank you.
So let's hop back into it real quick.
Okay, I meant to ask you this.
Okay.
When Braun, what's his real name? Victor?
Hector, yes.
Hector.
I will not be able to help myself but call him Braun, but yes, Hector.
Okay, Hector. When his phone goes off with the alert from the people.
Yeah.
Why is it a Bozo the Clown sound? That is not a sound a man like that would use on his phone.
That's a really interesting point.
And why is his alert the same as Brun?
It's a different one.
Kenny.
One of
they
them
both get Bozo alerts.
No, one of them has the. It's definitely two different sounds you keep hearing, and
Is
I
it a
remember
whoosh?
because when they're in the car with the lady in the back seat and they're both getting them at the same
he's just
time,
like, "Rear."
you are hearing two different sounds,
Rear? Rear?
and then.
Rear?
Okay, stop it.
But the Bozo alert made me laugh. That would not be
stupid.
his message alert.
Yeah. Okay, so when they're going down to the lobby, did you see the blonde kid who was kind of staring at them?
Yeah, I did.
Do you think he has anything to do with this?
Maybe.
There's no way of proving it, but
Maybe. What I was thinking is if... Yeah, no, what I was thinking is if Kenny and Braun, as they're going, maybe they're noticing people noticing them and thinking like, oh,
more
this
of a
person...
paranoia thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way of knowing, so we don't need to get into a circle of that. But yeah, I mean, it's one or the other.
Yeah, and there were a couple other scenes where it looked like people on the street were looking at them, and
yeah,
it kind of gave you that feeling.
Well, definitely when Braun starts driving like a goddamn maniac.
Oh my god.
Because they pull into the gas station, that lady ends up wanting a ride, and even though he basically, I mean...
Fucking Caryn. Not interview Caryn.
I get it. It's a little crazy that he basically is like, nah, we're really in a hurry, gotta get to the train station. She's like, oh yeah, no, it's on the way. Could you even imagine doing that?
Take a goddamn social cue, Caryn.
Yes, exactly.
But right before that, we do get Braun's background, and we
Is
know
her
why.
name Caryn?
Yeah.
It is weird to say things like that right after having just come back from the interview with Redditor Caryn.
I know. Well, I'll call her PTA Caryn.
Take a social cue, Caryn.
We do find out about him and his prostitution whore.
Sometimes you just want to fuck a 20-something-year-old.
Yes, and sorry, you're giving me your
Oh my god, get it together.
bad
Melting
cough
down.
juju. And Kenny says they have video of him masturbating, and Braun, just like me, says that's not a big deal.
Yeah. Which, of course, he starts whistling a different tune later on when they're... Because he needs to psych him up, because he doesn't want to go in there, and he needs to get this done because he doesn't want to lose his kids.
But probably my favorite scene in this whole episode is PTA Caryn in the car and how they handle all of that. It's so funny.
It's very funny and also high tension, but it's just like her reaction when he starts driving crazy.
I wanted to hit her. She just keeps asking questions.
Oh my god.
Both their phones are going off.
Yes.
If I hitched a ride with someone who I know didn't want to give me a ride and they're on their phones, clearly they're stressed out about something, I'm not going to be like, so how's the wife? Tell me about yourself, Kenny. Where are you from? Oh, that's where my husband's from.
Yeah.
Like, all this stuff. I would be like, Caryn, I'm really stressed out right now, okay?
Take it down a notch, Caryn.
We didn't want you in the car with us. You're in the car. Shut the fuck up.
Damn.
That's what I'd say.
Yeah, fuck Caryn. I totally agree. And again, it's weird saying it right after. But yeah, she is just a fucking miserable bitch.
And
But
I love how dangerous he's driving. And if I were PTA Caryn, I'd be like, okay, I'll get out. Let me out.
I also like when, like just rewinding a tiny bit, when Kenny goes into the gas station and he opens up Hector's wallet and the condoms fall out and the girls that are at the cash register look back and one of them like chuckles and then like nudges her girlfriend and looks back over at Kenny.
Why did that make you laugh?
It's just funny. Poor little Kenny sitting there with I'm sure that those were bronze condoms that he got for Mindy.
You wouldn't have been embarrassed.
What do you mean?
If you were that age and condoms fell out of your wallet.
Oh, my big magnum dong?
Yeah. No, I just remember like you making a thing of making it so anyone that walked by could see you were holding condoms.
I did?
Yeah, when
You were making that up.
when we were 21 and we were just dating and you were like holding them up on the shopping cart so anyone that walked past would see that you were holding up a
Oh, it
box
was like a funny thing?
Yeah, it's a funny thing.
Okay. I was like, God, that sounds so fucking petty, but no, I get it. It was a joke.
and you were doing it with a complete straight face. You know,
Yeah.
like, yeah. Very classic old school Adam.
Yeah, that is classic old school Adam. Okay, so anyway, after they drop this, I mean, she looks like she's gonna cry.
Oh, I didn't think she looked like she was gonna cry. I think she just looked baffled.
Her eyes, she looked like she was about to start crying.
Oh, she looked like she was gonna go in and call his wife and say, there's something wrong with Hector.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. Like, he blew his cover a little bit here.
He should have just said, I can't drive you, Caryn.
Okay, so then they rush to the bank place, and we talked about it a little bit. But
That's when they pull out the stuff in the cake.
yes.
I would be like, this is the disguise? Some yellow
Yes.
sunglasses and a baseball cap?
What the fuck? That is terrible. At least give me some blacked out sunglasses, right?
It's awful.
And maybe like a sombrero or something like that. Like
A wig or
fucking
something?
baseball cap? Yeah, like...
I don't know how you would get the wig in there, but... Or
Well, they
a
have
facial,
some. They
a
have some
mustache.
hats that have wigs built into them.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that was really bad.
So, who would you want to be? Driver or the robber?
Oh, come on. Everybody would want to be the driver.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I felt really bad for Kenny here. The way that Braun lays into him, basically. Like everybody's going to see this fucking video. They're going to see you tugging on your little wanker. And, you know,
I hate all those expressions.
Mr. Cummy Jizz Pants, they're going to call you. And he just he basically what I was saying earlier. Like, everybody you know is going to... And
I'm
they're
going to
all gonna
start
laugh at you
calling you
forever.
cummy jizz pants.
So, he goes in, and of course he fucking pisses himself right away, and I felt so bad for him.
I did too.
It was awful, and you feel bad for all the poor people inside of the goddamn bank. Like, it's just a shitty situation. Then when he goes outside, and Braun,
And the
Hector,
car's not there.
Isn't there, yes.
Oh.
Yes, like, there's just that moment, that sinking feeling where you're like, did they text him and say you have to drive away now?
Right, exactly. I know. Poor thing.
So, but anyway, he does end up picking him up, and as they're making their getaway, it's so fucking stressful that of course there's a goddamn roadblock there, and then
I wouldn't have stayed stopped. There were no cars around.
that's the thing, is that Hector keeps bringing up the point, like, we have to fly under the radar. The last thing you want is even the slightest bit, because that's the thing, is if he had blown through there right then, that's when the cop would have driven by him, and that's when he would have gotten totally fucked.
Okay.
So he did the right thing, absolutely, there.
Okay.
Okay, actually, this is a great point to kick it over to Michael for his Preach or Don't Preach segment. We will be right back.
Preacher don't preach.
And now, here's Mike.
All right, welcome once again to Preach or Don't Preach. As always, I'm your host for these segments, Mike. And this week's episode is Shut Up and Dance, but I'm going to change it up a little bit. I'm not actually going to talk about that episode this week. Nothing against the episode. It was all right. Not my favorite, but I'm just not that interested in it. What I really want to talk about this week is Black Mirror on the whole. And my experience with it, and kind of how my view of the show has changed and progressed, in large part to trying to have this conversation with you guys. My early experience with it was a little weird. Foxman told me about it, and like the next weekend, I went home and binge watched it. And let me tell you something. You do not want to binge watch Black Mirror. It is not that kind of a show. You get this strong sensation when you do that there's just a ton of finger wagging going on. Like they're just kind of, the show creators are constantly pointing their finger at you and saying, this is what you are. This is what you do with technology, kind of fall to the lowest common denominator. But when I've gone back and watched the episodes, more carefully, more critically, I found there's so much more enjoyable. Like the whole message is different than what I initially thought it was. And I think that's important. I think it's important to take your time with each episode. Don't binge watch it. Watch an episode every 2 or 3 days, or watch one episode and then go back and rewatch that same episode a couple days later after it's had a chance to sink in. And I think your experience will be drastically different. But going back to the finger wagging, the show appealed to me because even in that negative light, it's still a good show. Like there's still something satisfying. Us being basically judgmental creatures in general, human beings. There's something appealing in that kind of, look at these, what we do with these things. How technology or these situations always tend to turn out bad because of human nature. But like I said, I've done a 180 on it, and now, I see the show in a very positive light. I mean, and not just episode by episode, but also overall. I think the show creates, in large part, this really fascinating dialogue amongst its audience. And now, I've stayed away from Reddit for the purpose of this segment on the podcast because I didn't want it to kind of like influence what I was trying to say. Not that I couldn't use the help. I've been rambling here and there at the end of these things, and I apologize. But I really just didn't want too much outside influence, so I could kind of bring you guys like my own original take. But I have been on Reddit recently, and the conversations are fascinating. The dialogue that's being created it's not as lowbrow as I kind of thought it would be when I first watched the show. It's actually really fascinating how people are able to evaluate these shows and get in there and look at it from all these different, interesting, intelligent angles. It's really been, I don't know what the word for it is, but it's really been uplifting to get in there and see people, really digging in and not just focusing on the tech. And I think that's a huge part of what makes Black Mirror such a great show is the amount of faith the writers and creators put into the audience. They trust in us to be able to look beyond what's just simply happening on screen and get into the deeper meaning of these episodes and really evaluate some of what's happening in there. And then evaluate's a great word because that's the other thing is that the show is asking us to self-evaluate. Like that's what it's about, is being able to watch these episodes and then put yourself in the shoes of, each week, the person at the center of each episode or the situation in the center of each episode, and kind of imagine what you would do, how you would handle that. And because so much of the show is a moral or ethical, dilemma. I mean, it really has us examining those kind of things in our own lives, which we definitely need more of in the world, in my opinion. And it's self-evaluation is a good thing. And too often, I think we don't want to have to look at ourselves with a critical eye. But if you enjoy Black Mirror, you must enjoy doing that because it's such a key part of what makes the show so great. And that actually plays into the little line I try and tag every one of these Preacher Don't Preaches with at the end. And I mess it up just like I just messed that up 9 times out of 10, it seems. And it's, the unevaluated show. See, just did it again. The unexamined show is not worth watching. And of course, that's a ripoff of Socrates, who said the unexamined life is not worth living. And it's really great because not that entertaining shows like you see on CW or Fox are not, they're not a great way to kill an hour, but they don't really make you think, and that's how Black Mirror separates itself. And another thing, going back to ancient Greek thought, is the idea of knowing thyself, which again is to me the great thing about Black Mirror. I mean, you can't watch it and not learn about yourself, and that really separates it above so much modern television. Even shows I think that might be better don't make you think as much, and for that in particular, I'm grateful, just as I'm grateful for you guys for listening. And I will see you next week for San Junipero. I'm really looking forward to it. And as always, I'm going to nail it. The unexamined show is not worth watching. All right, see you next time, little buddies. Peace.
Preacher Don't Preach.
All right. Thank you, as always, to Michael for Preacher Don't Preach. And actually gave him a decent lead in this time. Didn't wait till we had like T-minus 3 seconds in the episode left.
We're getting so much better.
You're welcome, Michael. Okay, so anyway, let's get to, this is basically coming up towards the climax of the episode.
And I'm an idiot. I didn't want to ask you, who would you rather be, the robber or the driver?
I was going to say, that's a pretty obvious answer.
The question I wanted to pose to you is, which job would you rather have? Would you rather have Braun's job of having to take the car and find some way to destroy it, or Kenny's job where you have to take the money to a random drop spot in the woods and you don't necessarily know what you're going to encounter?
I mean, I guess I'd rather have Kenny's job.
See, I think I'd rather have the car destroying job because that's on my terms. I don't know what I'm meeting up with when I'm dropping money off in the
How
woods.
would you destroy the car?
Drive it into a lake, Michael Scott style.
Okay.
Something, weight it down. I don't know, some body of water. We live in Florida.
Yeah, I think that's easier said than done.
Everglades.
So you'd literally drive from here down to the Everglades?
People steal cars all the time. What I would do is scratch out the VIN number on the...
They asked him to destroy the car, right? Or get rid of it?
Yeah. So I'd scratch out that number. I would remove the plates, easily get rid of the plates. I would put it in some crappy neighborhood, and it would be scrapped for parts. Bing, bang, bong, dong.
Okay. All right. I mean, I guess I see what you're saying.
I've done it a million times.
Yeah, I mean, obviously knowing what we know after having seen the episode, I would totally rather have Braun's job here, but I think in that moment, if I was just given like, hey, you can do one of these two things, I think like walking up a hill and dropping off this bat, because I would assume in my mind that it was going to be exactly like the guy who dropped off the cake. Like, then I'm just another link in the chain.
Yeah, I'm a woman. And walking into an open field.
Yeah,
where
it's
there's
different.
Woods.
No, it's different. I get that.
It's like Rape City.
And you don't necessarily know that it's in the woods, though.
I think you see the woods. He has it on his phone. He knows where he's going. You can see that there's little... You can tell.
I didn't notice that at all. Because they're in an open field. But anyway, so... When he goes up there, of course, it's another fucking child predator in the woods, and it's a scary spot. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's dark woods. They're in a little clearing, and the guy has to let off his drone that has the camera on it. And this is the first point where we find out that there were kids in the thing, because the guy's talking about, oh yeah, no, of course, yeah, just watching videos of them. So obviously that guy's probably actually molesting kids.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
But that's not what he asked. The kid said that he was caught masturbating to pictures, and then he's like, "Oh, what kind of pictures were they? How old? You know?"
Yeah, he says that, but the way that he first says it is something along the lines of, "Oh yeah, no, just watching videos. That's all."
Well, you know what they say: a predator can always spot another predator.
Honestly, I think that that's what it is, Dexter style.
Yeah, he could see a predator in the making, maybe.
And
a weakness.
Kenny, basically off camera, ends up wiping the guy out, Dexter style. And this is when the Radiohead song starts playing.
Can we just state the obvious?
Yeah.
Kenny would not win that fight.
Oh, fucking course not. And I will say, when the guy dresses down a little bit when he's getting ready to fight, he does look a little scrawnier than he seemed at first, but not Kenny scrawny.
No, and Kenny came out of those woods looking... I mean, he looked bad, don't get me wrong, but he didn't look that bad.
Yeah, I like that. To me was very surprising. Maybe the guy is like, I mean, he, like I said, he looked pretty gaunt. Maybe he's like AIDSy or something like that.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? Like sickly.
Yeah, you would think, though, if he's raping children, he's probably pretty good at the sneak attack.
Maybe.
But anyway, regardless,
yeah.
Kenny won.
And this is when everybody starts receiving the troll face symbol.
Yeah.
And this is when Kenny gets the call from his mom, which is really fucking upsetting.
Yeah, but before that, we see the man getting home. He thinks his job is done. He's so happy and no, the wife sees everything on the computer.
Yeah.
And he gets the troll face.
And it's sad, too, because he goes in, he sees his kids sleeping, and you can just see the look of like, relief on his face.
Right, he's going to be a changed man.
Oh, God. So, anyway, the first time you watched it, do you recall, like, did this ending surprise you at all?
I don't know if it surprised me.
Well, yeah, because you're given a lot, so I don't know if you necessarily just react to that. I mean, the kiddie porn stuff really surprised me the first time. That's the big twist.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that surprised me. That totally surprised me. But then it's like, oh, no wonder, because the whole time you're angry with him, like, why is he doing this?
Yeah, and then you
realize,
get it.
Yeah, that was a huge surprise.
Pretty serious.
But them getting their comeuppance didn't surprise me.
No,
you see the lady with the racist text, the motorcycle guy. We don't know what was released for him. We just see him standing in his living room and his family all upset around him.
Do you kind of wonder maybe if the same troll network that is doing this might be the same troll network that sets up the Hated in the Nation? Is that the last whatever the last episode with the killer bees is, where they have to start the social media thing?
Oh, maybe. I haven't seen that episode in so long.
Yeah.
But I'll definitely keep that in mind when we watch it.
Whoever's trending on with like the kill this person hashtag or whatever.
Yes.
So I don't know. Maybe
that's an interesting theory.
Anyway, any last thoughts? Like overall, how does this episode place for you?
This episode is so sad. I like it though. It's probably middle of the road for me. Maybe closer to the bottom half is what I'm trying to say.
It's definitely probably my bottom third. I like it quite a bit. It's a great episode.
I like it as much as I like White Bear. I feel the same way about those.
It's so similar to White Bear, though.
Yeah, the punitive aspect of it is. Yes. And I can't help but feel bad for that kid. I feel so terrible. It's just it's not fair.
And you have to imagine the way that they're pointing it out. Like, it's probably really little, like, young kids that he's watching while he's doing this.
Yeah, I know, but he's still so young, and now his life's ruined. He could have been rehabilitated from that, maybe. I don't know.
Anyway, okay, so, yeah, I think we're on the same page with that. So, again, I want to thank...
What a shit note to end on.
Yeah. Well, that's how Black Mirror episodes always end, on a shit fucking note. Except the next episode we're going to do, San Junipero.
Finally, some relief.
Yeah. So, thank you so much to Caryn and to Michael.
Not PTA Caryn. Redditor Caryn.
Not PTA Caryn, yes. Black Mirror subreddit Caryn. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for the song. And thank you, Michael, for Preach or Don't Preach. And thank you to everybody who listened. Again, you can follow us on all the social media stuff. We're also doing Taboo on FX now. We have Big Little Lies coming out. And actually, I think this week we're going to release a Best of January, and it's just all the Boob Tube Buddies contributors talking about the different stuff. Because, like, even though we're not covering it, a lot of us are really enjoying a couple of different shows. Like Young Pope, to me, is really avant-garde and surprising.
Absolutely, yeah.
And weird. It's so weird, but I think I really like it. I'm kind of glad we're not covering it because I don't know. It's
nice to just watch it and let it wash over you.
Yeah.
And not have to analyze it so deeply.
And to be able to just do a little snippet of it
Right.
Anyway, that's really what we got going on. As always, just tell a friend about the show. That's the best thing you can do for us. All the ratings and stuff are great. The 5 stars or signing up through Audible. It all helps, but really the best thing that you can do is just to share a link to our show on your Facebook or on Twitter or something like that. Just tell somebody about it. But anyway, before I have a goddamn meltdown in my throat, because I am like really holding it together, but it's not going to work for much longer. Bethany, will you tie a bow on this bitch?
Keep your computer cameras covered, little buddies.